Hey there, and welcome to the after show of our podcast episode about social issues. So in the main part, just to give you a little bit of recap, we talked about such issues as homelessness, unemployment, briefly touched bullying, and talked a lot about gun violence and mass shootings because that is a huge issue. Again, a reminder that if you want to know more about such issues as crimes, you can always check out one of the previous episodes where we talked exclusively about that. So, and now in our after show, Vara, Maria, Ayub, and I are going to talk about our personal experiences regarding social issues. So and personal experience does not necessarily mean something we have been through. Maybe we were witnesses of something or have seen somebody close to us or not close to us go through these things. So, be that bullying, homelessness, animal shelters, whatever.
Start with negative or positive things.
We can, kind of alternate,
switch in, yeah.
To have like a wave. So are there any stories you would like to share?
Well, as for animal shelters, for example, I sometimes do help animal shelters and I sometimes donate money to charity. And we have this Sberbank app and you have bonuses. And now you can donate these bonuses to some charities. That's what I do with
Do you have any charities that you specifically prefer to donate to?
I prefer to donate to animal charities, but as for this bonuses, you can't. You can just have a limited list of options. And well, I chose some kids with untreatable diseases.
So you help financially in the way you can?
Yeah. I would like to go and maybe do some volunteer work in an animal shelter, but I need a company. It's not that I could come by myself. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable doing it, but I would love to. Yeah.
Well, coming to an animal shelter, like this is something I would be willing to do. I sometimes, just like you, help with, 100 rubles there, 1,000 rubles here, if I can, whenever I can. But I have a student who is also a volunteer at, what do we call them, children's homes? So, and the thing is that they also have this aspect of volunteering where they take the kid, an orphan, home for, let's say, holidays, or they become a mentor for this. And honestly, I
have mixed feelings about it, actually.
Absolutely.
This is an orphanage?
Yes.
I mean, it sounds good and it sounds kind, but then you take the kid for a couple of weeks and then they have to go back to the orphanage. Yeah.
So I have very mixed feelings, but she is like a mentor for the kid who is 14 at the moment. So they go places. She helps him, with the education. They talk about like his future way and so on. But yeah, I understand that.
This can create attachment issues for
as well.
them.
Do they have to commit to a certain amount of time? What do they have to commit to?
Take the kid for the whole weekend once, I think once a month or something. And in general, I don't think there is a maximum, but I'm not sure if there is a minimum of time they're supposed to spend with a kid. So, and you have to be in touch with them as well.
But then you move to another city or you get married or you get pregnant or whatever, or you just tired and can't do it anymore. And then this child feels betrayed and abandoned and neglected, and it creates more problems than he used to have.
Yeah, in psychology, we call it attachment issues. When they grow up, it can affect them very, very deeply. Really.
So you're saying then that it's better not to have it at all.
That's the problem.
Is that?
I think some people should be more brave to adopt some of them.
Rather than be a visiting
right. Because
friend.
maybe it makes them feel good. Oh, look what I do with this orphan kid. Oh, how wonderful I am.
I have a feeling that sometimes, I think there is a name for it. The people do it for the karma points. Like, oh, I helped this. Look how good I am. Oh, I also volunteered. Like, literally did nothing useful. But they're like, no, I volunteered. I went to Africa to help them build houses. Yeah, and they were doing much better before you came there, you know. So they just want to show, look at me, I'm so good.
Because, why would you take a kid for an indefinite amount of time for the weekend to give it back?
Exactly.
And for what's the end game? To help that kid temporarily,
Like
maybe.
to befriend this kid,
but that should be a lifetime commitment, right?
So yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I also have very mixed feelings about that, to be
That's
honest.
It gives the
bad.
opposite effects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
any other experiences with...
I haven't much of an experience, but I have seen some, I witnessed some about child labor in my country.
Oh.
I have seen many children like doing some hard jobs. You know, they grew up before their age.
Oh,
And this
that's
creates
very sad.
this creates like a deep problem there, because I have seen them, like when you look to their eyes, you can understand that they want their childhood. They want to play like normal children, but they cannot because they are forced to work.
Mhm.
Imagine. I have seen some people, like it's really,
And what kind of jobs
Devastating.
did they do?
they infrastructure, like the construction, carrying heavy weights. They go to market the whole day under the sun. They do a lot of things. Some parents even send their children to be beggars.
Mhm.
They use them to make others feel empathetic about them, to give them money. And it's really like devastating, really. I have seen a lot.
And at the same time, the feeling that, you know, when you see these kids, I'm like, I don't know how I personally can help.
You can't, because their parents are forcing them to do it. You cannot take a child from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Speaking of more positive, contributions, I have a friend who is very active in like this social way, and she always helps animals. And she went to Baikal several times to plant trees on Baikal and to build trails for tourists. And she always tries to help animals, even bigger animals like bears. So once she saw a bear in captivity, and then she addressed local government and several other organizations, so that she was wondering how she could take this female bear out of captivity. Well, unfortunately, the bear is still in the same place, but because, nobody was interested.
Yeah, and she sounds more like an activist rather than just a volunteer. I mean, the fact that she's writing letters.
She's both. I can say. And for example, she collected old blankets and different stuff for shelters here in Novosibirsk. And she did. She really does a lot of stuff, and she kind of inspires me in this way. So that's why I try to help whenever I can.
I love it how, you know, we have some sort of like negative experience and everything. And Masha's like, talking about more positive things. So Masha's like, you know, some sort of I do not know, something that
Balancer.
yes, like you balance us. You do not, you help us not to drown into this negativity.
Because when we started to talk about this gun stuff in the main part of our episode, I really I found myself somewhere like on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want to think that everything is in vain and like we humans are evil creatures. Well, sometimes we are, but above all, I believe in humanity. I mean, as a species.
Well, yeah. You know, when we talked about the ways that we mere humans can help, you know, to promote some social change, I've realized that we haven't mentioned one more, which could be an example of what I did, which is voting with your wallet when you sponsor or not sponsor some sort of companies. Because I remember when I was in the US, there is this makeup brand that I used to love, which is called Lime Crime. And I thought, oh my God, they have such cute, you know, lipsticks and everything. But I was always wondering, like, how come that like this brand is not sold in Sephora and basically is sold nowhere but a couple of shops in California? So I thought, okay, maybe they want to be solely online. And then I asked a friend of mine, like, why do you think it's not sold in Sephora? She's like, geez, you use this brand? I'm like, yeah, why? They have like nice quality things. They're like, nobody would even dare to sell their produce in their shops. I'm like, wait, why? Like, because their owner and founder of this company openly supports and finances Ku Klux Klan and other racist organizations. I'm like, sorry, what now? Like, yeah. And she's open about it. She's like, yeah, I donate money. I financially support them. I'm like, oh, okay. So from that moment on, I have never bought and will never buy anything of that company. I'm like, nope, I cannot support that. Nope, don't want to be a part of that. So this is one way that people can at least have a tiny effect on some sort of companies.
Yeah.
By not paying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So it's like a double-edged sword. Like
But
it can be good
not
and
many people are considering these things. For example, sometimes when we have this environment topic of the environment with my students, I ask them like, do you look at the packages in the store? Like, do you check if it was tested on animals or if, where it came from and what ingredients? And almost everyone says, no, I don't have time for this. No, it's like the letters are too small to read.
It's also like, what can I do? Like very often people say, what can I do? Like I can't do anything to change that. So what's the point? Anyway.
Well, even if I can't do it, maybe I just don't want to support it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's different. Inside of me, it's different. Even if I don't do anything to help, if I don't support it.
I have noticed that in the US in general, especially young consumers, they are much more conscious about what they buy, what are the company's policies, what kind of workforce they use, like whether the company provides, good labor conditions and so on. So people start to be really careful about this. They want to know, like, what are the conditions that people have to work with? What are the materials? What is your impact on the environment? So they do vote with their wallet, a lot of them.
Very good.
Yeah. What about bullying? Have you ever had any sort of experience or have you seen anybody going through this? Be that bullying or cyberbullying?
Yeah, I think that I experienced it myself when I was 13 or something, maybe 12, 7th grade, I guess. Me and my friend were kind of not attacked, but a group of girls came to us and they threatened us, like they threatened to beat us up, probably to kick us in our faces like this. And then I was scared. Well, I probably realized that they wouldn't do it, but still, it just, I don't like this physical pain, physical violence thing. Just, well, I came home and I told my parents about it, and someone from my family came to school to talk to them.
Like when you're a kid, very often you do not understand certain things. Like what happened and so on and so forth. Maybe we wouldn't think of things like as bullying or something, but when you grow up, you like look back at what happened. You're like, damn.
Well, it was obvious in my case. Like people threatened to beat you for something that you didn't even do.
Well, the reason why I said what I said is because when you were giving this example, I remember that happened so many times in my school, but I was living in a ghetto and that was just something that was so common.
Just normal way of life.
So let's say I remember at some point we had a day at school. We had some sort of sport games or something, and one guy took another like by the hair and just hit his face into the glass, and it was like blood everywhere. And for us, it was like, oh my God, another day when something happened. Fine. Now I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how did I even survive in that school and did become a drug addict or something? I did end up with a broken nose. Like, okay, that's true. But
yeah, I also, for example, in my class, there was a guy who was 1 year younger than everybody else. And he was constantly humiliated by others, like because he was younger and weaker. And we didn't do a lot. Well, we didn't do anything. Maybe we even laughed. I Well, we
Kids-
felt sorry for him, but probably we also laughed because, well, kids
Are cruel.
Well, it's not like they are cruel. They just don't understand. They don't realize because, and also they want to, they have this sense of conformity. They want to be a part of the group. They want to belong. And it's very hard for children and teenagers to stand up and protest and support someone. So,
What are the rates of bullying in Russia?
I don't
I
think
don't-
that it's so maybe high because I don't know when we watch some American TV shows or films about school life, they show like bullying is a big thing. If we speak about Russian culture, probably not. I don't know if it is just hidden or maybe it's not such a big deal.
Because people prefer to ignore it. That's the thing.
In
At least-
Algeria, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least from my experience of working at a school, like people just, turn blind when it comes to bullying. Like, nope, what didn't happen?
But
Oh,
even, for example, this Stephen King story, Carrie, it came from bullying because she got kind of crazy and destroyed the school because she was bullied.
In Algeria, we have a strict punishment system at schools. Outside, I don't know about it, but at school, it's very rare to see someone bullying someone because when discovered and proven guilty, they can be expelled directly without any negotiation or anything. You did something they teach us from childhood that bullying or doing something bad at school is bad. And since education is for free, so it's like you do something wrong, you get expelled. You don't have a second chance, and they can follow you legally if you are a teenager above 18.
And what happens to those who are expelled?
They never go back to school again.
And what do they do? Go to streets or what?
We have some workshops. They send them to workshops to, for example, to do some welding and, that stuff.
And they
Some works.
never can get a higher education?
No.
Wow, strict.
Strict. I am telling it's very strict.
But efficient.
Yeah.
I have to
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
about it.
So, Vary, how much of a deal is it?
yeah, bullying wasn't big when I was a little girl. It wasn't like it is
Okay.
now because you say you see things on TV about
Yeah,
America.
maybe it's just
It is increased.
I don't know if it really increased or it's just shown and portrayed.
I don't know. I
Like
think it
this.
has increased.
Because now, earlier, kids were only bullied at school, meaning home was safe space for them, like even if they were bullied. Now we have cyberbullying and you can't get away from it. Meaning if somebody cyberbullies you, you cannot just, go home because you're still followed by your bullies. And this is like another problem as well. So, and nowadays I noticed that it's not only about teens and kids, but there are people who cyberbully even adults, let's say
Yes.
on Instagram and so on, they send hate messages and everything. Like, where do you have all this anger from?
And how do you have the time to do all of this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, some people are empty. Like they have all the time to send such messages like comments.
And so they sit down, they devote hours and hours and hours of their time.
That's
Yeah.
why people should be employed.
It's like, really?
Don't get kicked out of school.
You cut them loose and they become dangerous.
Mm-hmm. What about homelessness? Is there any way that you have ever helped the homeless or helped the shelters?
I have. I've gone. I remember being in LA, and I probably told this story before, but offering some peaches to this old woman, and she definitely had a mental disorder because she started yelling at me. And so when something like that happens, that is fodder to say, oh, they want to be out on the streets and it's their own fault. But obviously she had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there would be times where I would, even here, I've given money to someone who had a bunch of dogs around him.
Mm-hmm.
It was wintertime and I gave him everything I had,
Mm-hmm.
all the coins I had.
In this case, I would rather buy dogs food
Yeah,
because
so-
when I see such cases, I really don't know if the person is going to buy his dog food or is it just a random dog he picked up.
Right, you don't know.
Because this scares me.
But this one guy had his blanket around like 3 dogs. And I just thought, well, I've got coins. Let's get rid of the coins, at least that.
There's also a difference between people, like maybe they're homeless, maybe they're not, we do not, but they're on the street. When they ask you for money and you're like, I can buy you food, they're like, I don't need your food, give me money. I'm like, oh no, sorry. In this case, no. But there are people who genuinely, they're like, can you buy me some food, please? In this case, you know, a person actually is going,
They need
like,
food.
they need food. They're not going to spend money on like alcohol or cheap vodka or something.
Yeah.
In this case, it's like, okay, let's go get you something that, you know, you don't need to cook up or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of an old woman who was in the, I don't know what you call it, the foyer of the grocery store. And she obviously needed something. So I stopped and gave her some money. And so I'm sure she went in and got some food.
Yeah. We actually have it's some sort of a shelter for homeless people where if they come, because as they say, very common situation in Novosibirsk at least is when people fell prey to some scams and they lost their house, let's say, or maybe they lost their documents somewhere and they cannot prove who they are because the documents were lost or stolen or something. So they end up on the street. So in this shelter, they help homeless people, you know, to get the documents back, to find some sort of a job, to maybe find some place to live. Maybe it could be like, you know, being in a room with 3 more people, but at least it's roof above their head. But they constantly need donations because they say we cannot cover everything. And at one point they were in debt by like 100,000 rubles just for electricity and everything. So, and I remember we gave them some sort of men's clothing because this is usually something that nobody donates because men normally, most of people buy one thing and wear it until it's worn out. At least that's what everyone I know did. So that's why they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. We needed these shirts, we needed these jackets and so on. But they're constantly experiencing trouble because of the lack of finance. Yeah. So sometimes they even say, can you bring us some sort of, let's say, dishes or blankets or something like towels? So yeah, there are a lot of ways that we can help, at least on a smaller scale. Well, as usual, I would like to know about you, dear listeners. So is there any way that you are helping, you know, the society, something you want to do maybe, or something you have experienced, have seen people do and so on? So in general, we are very open to having a conversation about anything you want to. So feel free to leave your comments and tell us what you think. And we'll see you in our future episodes and after show. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.